Farron's Drift was a small colony on the edge of the galaxy. It was quiet, simple, and full of strange, beautiful stars. Commander Rock had lived there for years. He was an old alien, tall and blue-skinned, with soft silver lines running down. His face, he was calm, respected, and always busy keeping the colony safe. But these days, Rock felt empty. It wasn't because of pirates or politics. It was because of her captain, Ala Thorne, a human. She had been gone for 5 years. Rock sat alone in his office, watching the stars outside the dome. His tea had gone cold, but he didn't care. His fingers tapped slowly on the desk, remembering the way Ayla used to walk into the room, fast, loud, and full of life. Humans were always like that. They didn't tiptoe around the galaxy. They stormed into it. He missed her laugh, missed how she would challenge him in meetings, her voice sharp but never cruel. They'd worked together during the old crisis. Pirates had attacked then, too. Ella had arrived with her team and saved the colony from falling. But more than that, she had stayed. For almost 2 years, they worked side by side. They learned from each other. They shared long talks after midnight, sitting on the colony's rooftop, looking at the stars. Allah used to joke, you know. You aliens are way too quiet. We humans, we scream into the stars. And now she was gone. Transferred, promoted, sent back to Earth. No calls. No messages. Nothing. Rock didn't blame her. Humans moved fast. Their lives burned bright and short. But it still hurt. He stood up slowly and walked toward the dome window. Outside, workers were repairing a damaged water line. The colony was doing fine, but something inside him was not. She would have helped with the repairs herself. He whispered to no one, covered in dirt, laughing the whole time. A soft knock came at the door. It was Urla, a young alien officer with wide eyes and nervous hands. Commander Rock, sir? There's a transmission from the mining outpost. They're asking for defense support. Send the patrol ship. Tell them I'll check in later. Urla hesitated. Sir, are you okay? Rock looked at her and smiled gently. Just remembering. Nodded and left. He sat back down, staring at the cold tea. Later that night, Rock walked to the old rooftop where he and Ayla used to sit. The stars were bright. The wind was soft. Everything was quiet. He held a small device in his hand. Comlink. Old, dusty, and worn. It had a less old frequency saved inside it. He hadn't used it in years. He pressed the button. It blinked. No signal, of course. Why would she still use the same channel? He muttered. He stood up and looked at the stars again. Somewhere out there, on some planet or ship, she was alive. Still loud, still brave, still human. Do you remember this place? He whispered to the sky. Do you think of us? There was no answer. Only silence. He wanted to send a message, but he didn't know what to say. Lo felt too weak. I miss you felt too much. Come back felt selfish, so he said nothing. But deep inside, small hope began to grow. The next day, the colony was attacked. No one saw it coming. Pirate fleet dropped out of hyperspace and launched strikes before the colony could even raise its shields. Rock gave orders quickly. He wasn't as fast as he once was, but his mind was still sharp. Evacuate the outer sectors. Reroute power to defense grid. Get me all available security forces now. The pirates were using stolen military tech to advance for what the colony could handle alone. We need help, Rock said through gritted teeth. Urla stood near him, panic on her face. Sir, the Galactic Council won't respond fast enough. They're 2 weeks out. Rock looked at the blinking red lights. Across the defense map, fires, explosions, civilians trapped. He took a deep breath. Then he reached for the old comlink again. It blinked once, twice. Still no signal. Then he did something desperate. He activated the ancient relay. A deep space beacon left from the Human Colony Alliance days. Emergency distress. This is Farron's Drift. Civilian colony under attack. We are outgunned. Immediate assistance required. Anyone receiving this, please respond. He didn't know if anyone would hear it. He didn't know if she would hear it, but it was hope far across the galaxy. In a hidden human station, a blinking light came on. One of the young soldiers ran to the console. "Captain Thorne, I just got a ping from the old relay. Someone's in trouble." Alla stood up slowly. Her heart skipped. "Play it." The message crackled. "This is Farron's Drift. We are under attack, requesting help." Isla's hands curled into fists. Her eyes burned. She whispered Rock, then louder to her team, "Gear up. We're going in." Ayla Thorne stood in the middle of the Human Response Command Center, her boots planted firmly on the floor. Around her, bright screens showed maps, fleet movements, and alerts from across the galaxy, but she wasn't looking at any of them. She was staring at one blinking light. Farron's Drift. Distress signal priority arrived. Her heart ached. It had been 5 years since she left that colony. 5 years since she had last spoken to Commander Rock. He had been more than just a fellow officer. He had been someone she trusted. Someone who listened. Someone who understood her, even when no one else did. When she was with him on Farron's Drift, she felt seen. Not as a soldier. Not as a captain. Just as Ayla. And then she left. She didn't mean to cut ties. Life just moved too fast, Command. Pulled her to Earth. Then another mission. Then another war zone. She always meant to reach out, send a message, maybe even visit, but she never did. Now he was in danger. Ayla took a deep breath. She tapped the screen. A shaky voice came through the speakers. "Under attack, outgunned, requesting immediate help. Farron's Drift." That was Rock's. Voiced, her chest tightened. He sounded tired, older, and afraid. She turned sharply and called out, "Lieutenant Kieran." "Ah!" A young man ran over. "Yes, Captain. Get me the Black Star Company. We're going in." "But do the Council hasn't approved any movement yet, ma'am. They say it's not Earth's jurisdiction." Alla narrowed her eyes. "They sent a call for help." "Yes, but then we answer."
"Ours."
The Black Star Fleet. Launched from the Earth's defense station. 10 ships. Hundreds of trained soldiers. Engineers. Medics. And in the center of it, Captain Ayla Thorne in full armor, standing tall inside the lead ship, Dawn Pursuers, as the ships entered slipspace. Everything went quiet. Ayla sat in her quarters, staring at a small device in her hands. It was an old comlink, one she had used back on Farron's Drift. It still had Rock's personal frequency saved in it. She hadn't touched it in years. She turned it on. The signal was weak. Static filled the room. She didn't know what to say. "Hey, it's me," she whispered into the silence. "You probably don't use this line anymore, but I'm coming. We're coming. Just hang on." She paused, her voice cracked. "I should have written sooner. I'm sorry. Just didn't know how."
The
Message ended. The signal blinked out. She placed the device gently on the table and leaned back. "I'll get there in time," she whispered to herself. "I have to." Back in the command room of the Dawn Piercer, Lieutenant Kieran walked in and gave her a report. "Captain, pirates are using stolen high-grade tech, plasma weapons, shield scramblers. We're estimating 30 to 40 enemy ships." Ayla nodded. "How long until we exit slipspace?" 4 hours. Prepare the team. We're dropping straight into fire." He hesitated. "Ma'am, this mission, it's personal, isn't it?" She looked at him, quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. "There was someone there. Someone I cared about. I left and never said goodbye. Now I have a chance to do something that matters. Not for medals, not for glory, just because it's right." Kieran didn't say anything more. He only saluted. As the hours passed, the team trained, checked their gear, and sat in silence. Some of them joked nervously. Others stared at the walls. Humans were strange to other species, so emotional, so unpredictable. But one thing everyone knew, when humans answered a distress call, they didn't do it halfway. They arrived fast. They arrived loud. And they didn't stop until the people were safe. 4 hours later, the human fleet burst out of slipspace just outside Farron's Drift. The colony was burning. Buildings were on fire. Civilians were running. Enemy ships circled above like vultures. Ayla stood at the front of the bridge, armor shining in the firelight. She gave a single command. Drop pods now. Hundreds of pods launched from the ships, streaking through the sky like falling stars. The pirates looked up and froze. Humans didn't hesitate. The pods smashed into the ground. Doors burst open. Soldiers poured out. Fire met fire. Steel met chaos. The humans fought like thunder. And Allah. She ran straight for the command dome. She didn't even stop when blaster fire hit the ground near her feet. She had to find him, inside the smoking remains of the colony tower. Commander Rock was helping civilians escape. He was coughing, covered in dust, but still moving, still giving orders. Then a voice came through the smoke. Commander. He turned slowly, and there she was. A wild thorn, in full armor, eyes burning, light voice steady. I told you, she said, smiling softly. When you call, we answer. He stared at her, stunned. For a moment, time stopped. Then he laughed, a dry, shaky laugh. You're late, she laughed too. Traffic was bad. And for the first time in years, the distance between them disappeared not by words, but by action. She came back, not with promises, but with a fleet and hope. The air inside the colony's command dome was hot, full of smoke and static. Walls shook as distant explosions rattled the ground. Farron's Drift was falling apart. Commander Rock stood in the center of the main hall, surrounded by flashing red lights and frightened officers. His uniform was torn at the sleeve and a cut ran across his cheek, but he didn't stop. He had no time for pain. Get the civilians to the shelter tunnels, he shouted. Seal the eastern corridor, and someone find out if the water tanks are still intact. Irla, his young second-in-command, ran up beside him. Sir, pirates are pushing deeper into the southern district. We don't have enough soldiers to hold them back. Rock stared at the map on the main screen. Red marks showed enemy ships, ground units, and burning zones. The colony was surrounded. Help might be coming, but it wasn't here yet. Not yet. And time was running out. In a quiet corner of the command dome, Rock stopped for a moment. His chest hurt not from the smoke, or the stress but from something deeper. Even after seeing Ayla's face again, even after hearing her voice, he still felt far from her. She had arrived, yes, but she wasn't with him yet. She was out. There now, somewhere on the battlefield, fighting with her soldiers. She's like always brave, bold, fearless. He remembered the old days, sitting on the colony rooftop, drinking tea, talking about strange human habits, and even stranger alien rules. Back then, the war had brought them together. Now, this war had pulled them apart again. He wanted to talk to her, not as a soldier, not as a commander, just as a friend. But the colony needed him. And so, he pushed the feeling aside. Again, outside. The battle grew worse. Pirates moved fast through the lower levels. Their stolen weapons were too strong for the colony's security units. Fires spread. The night sky was red. Families hid underground, waiting. Some whispered that the end was near. But then they saw something in the sky bright, shapes falling like stars. Human drop-dash pods. One little alien girl, hiding with her parents, pointed up and gasped. Are they angels? Her father whispered. No, those are humans. Captain Alathorn slammed into the ground with the first wave of her troops. The moment her pod doors opened, she was already running. Dust, fire, and shouting filled her ears. But she had only one goal: find Commander Rock. She fought her way through broken buildings, helping civilians along the way. Her team moved fast, clearing pirate forces and pulling people to safety. Yet, every time she passed a group, she asked, Have you seen the commander? No one had she started to worry, not just because of the mission, but because she still hadn't told him what she wanted to say. She missed him, that she shouldn't have stayed away. She never forgot him. Back at the command dome, Rock and his team were making a last stand. The pirates had breached the outer gates. Blaster fire hit the walls. Yurlo was hit in the leg and pulled to safety by two other officers. Rock stood tall, holding a shield and a shock rifle. He wasn't young anymore, but he would fight until the end. He had made peace with that. But a part of him still hoped that she would come. And just when all seemed lost, the dome doors burst open. A bright blue light flashed, and the first group of pirates dropped to the floor. There she was, a Wyala dust-covered, eyes sharp, gun in hand. "Sorry I'm late," she said, breathing hard. "Miss me?" Rock gave a tired smile. "Just a little." Together, they stood side by side, clearing out the last of the enemy troops in the dome. Allah's soldiers followed close behind, forming a wall of defense. Finally, silence. Rock sat down on a broken bench, breathing heavily. Allah sat beside him. Neither spoke for a moment. Then he asked, "Why did you come?" She looked at him. The voice was soft. "Because you called. And because I should have come back sooner." He didn't answer right away. "I missed our talks," he said finally. "So did I," she whispered. The battle wasn't over. More pirates would come. But right now, for the first time in a long while, they were together again. Later that night, the colony's sky was quiet. Fires were out. Children were sleeping in shelters. And soldiers, human and alien, were eating together. Rock stood on the rooftop again. It's just like the old days. Allah walked up beside him, holding 2 cups of tea. She handed him one. "You remembered," he said. "I never forgot," they looked. "At the stars, do you think we'll win?" he asked quietly. Ayla smiled. "We're human. We don't show up to lose." He chuckled, the sound light and warm. And for the first time in 5 years, he didn't feel so distant anymore. Asterisk the next. Morning, the sky over Farron's Drift was quiet. Too quiet, smoke still floated above the broken buildings. The air was thick with dust and sadness. Pirates had pulled back for now, but everyone knew they would return. Commander Rock stood near the broken outer wall of the colony, watching the horizon. His long coat blew gently in the wind. Behind him, people were rebuilding shelters. Engineers worked on damaged shield towers. Children sat in groups, too tired to play. But Rock wasn't watching the colony. He was watching the sky. "I wonder," he whispered, "when she'll leave again." Captain Ayla. Thorn had saved him. She came like a firestorm. Fast, loud, fearless. She stayed through the night, helping civilians, fixing power systems, comforting the scared, but Rock hadn't seen her since they shared tea on the roof. She was busy now leading her soldiers, making reports, dealing with council officers who were arriving late. She belonged in the sky, in ships, in motion, and he belonged here, on the ground. He felt the distance again. Not the kind made by stars or time, but the kind made by choices. Lives, duty. He wanted to talk to her, really talk, like they used to. But now he wasn't sure how Allah sat inside her. Ship, the Dawn Piercer, reading a report. Pirates were regrouping. A large enemy ship had entered orbit. It was likely preparing a full assault. She leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes. Her mind wasn't on the enemy. It was on him. Commander Rock. He had barely spoken to her since that night. They had worked side by side during the battle. He had even smiled. But now he was quiet again, distant, formal. Maybe he was hurt. Maybe she had waited too long to return. She tapped her. "Come dash link." His name was still saved in the system. She stared at it, pressed it, paused, and closed it. What would I even say? She whispered, "Hey, Rock, I missed you, but I didn't know how to say it." She sighed. Human or alien, it didn't matter. Feelings were still hard. Suddenly alarms rang through the ship. Enemy vessel entering low orbit. Someone shouted, "Over the comes." Ala jumped to her feet. "Get me visuals." A giant pirate cruiser appeared on the main screen. Black and red, covered in stolen weapons and illegal armor. It moved slowly like a monster creeping across the stars. There. "Aiming for the colony," a soldier said. "Launch the intercept fighters," Ayla ordered. "We hold them above the clouds." She grabbed her helmet and her comlink. She paused again, then finally. She opened Rock's channel. "Rock," she said, voice steady. "It's coming. You need to get your people underground?" Now there was a short silence. Then his voice replied, calm, strong. "I know. We're ready." "Be careful out there, Ala." That was all, but it was enough. The sky split open. Human fighter jets screamed upward into the atmosphere. Fast and furious, anti-air guns fired from the colony's edge. Lights flashed. Explosions shook the clouds. Captain Ayla's dropship followed behind, cutting through fire like a blade. She wasn't going to sit in safety. She was leading the counterstrike herself. Inside the colony, people watched in silence. The sky looked like a storm of stars and flames. Commander Rock stood at the shelter doors, making sure every last child. An elder got inside. Still, he kept looking up. He saw her ship. He felt something in his chest. Not fear, not anger, just worry and hope. Above the clouds, Ayla's ship was hit. Smoke filled the cockpit, brace for crash. Someone shouted. The ship dropped fast, spinning toward the surface. But she wasn't afraid. She was thinking of him. "I'm not leaving again," she whispered. The ship crashed hard near the old power station, just outside the colony walls. Ala crawled out, bruised but alive. Her armor was damaged, and her leg hurt, but she stood up. She picked up her weapon and walked back toward the fight. Humans were strange. They didn't run when things got hard. They didn't quit when they felt alone. They held on, even when it hurt. Back. At the colony, Rock got the news. "She's down," someone said. Captain Thorne's ship crashed near Sector 5. Rock's heart stopped. Without a word, he ran through the broken streets. Past fire and ash he didn't care about, his protocol, he didn't care about pride. He cared about her. He found her near the power station, holding off a group of pirates with only a damaged rifle and one working shield unit. She looked up surprised. "Rock." He raised his own weapon and fired. The last pirate dropped, then silence. They stared at each other. Neither smiled. Neither cried. They just stood there, breathing hard. Finally, Rock spoke. "I thought I lost you again." "You didn't," she whispered. "I stayed." He nodded. "I'm glad." And in that quiet moment, the war felt far away. Just two people, standing close, no longer distant, just here together. The fighting had stopped for now. The pirates had fallen back again, hiding in the hills beyond the colony. The big enemy ship in orbit had vanished, chased off by Earth's defense cruisers. Farron's drift was still standing, but Captain Alathorn felt tired, not from the battle. That part was normal. She was trained for pain, for hard landings, for last stands. But what she wasn't trained for, what wore her down the most, was silence. She sat on a bench near the colony's medical station. Her armor was scratched. A bandage was wrapped. Around her leg, a group of alien children ran by, laughing as they played with one of her soldiers' helmets. And she smiled, but just for a second, because Rock wasn't around. He hadn't come to see her after the battle. Not last night, not this morning. She had expected something. A message. A thank you. A quiet moment like before, but there was nothing. And again, she felt that distance. Like he was here, but not really with her. Maybe I waited too long, she whispered to herself. Meanwhile, Commander Rock was walking through the upper levels of the colony. The walls were cracked. Power cables hung loose. The air smelled like smoke and solder. But the colony was still alive. Aliens and humans worked side by side now. Human engineers were helping rebuild the water system, Human medics were treating the sick. Even the council diplomats who had arrived too late were now asking Earth for advice. And still, Rock's mind wasn't on any of that. He was thinking about Ayla. He had seen her on the battlefield. He had stood beside her, and when she fell, he ran to her. But after that, said very little. He didn't know how to say what he felt, how to tell her that the years had hurt, that her leaving had left a space no one else could fill. Oh, that hearing. Her voice again was like opening an old wound and finding something still beating underneath. So instead of talking, he worked, he fixed doors, he checked supply lists. He stayed busy, but in his chest, there was still that ache. That afternoon, a meeting was held in the colony's council room. The Galactic Council's envoy had finally arrived, a tall, thin alien, named Cirrus, who always looked annoyed. This colony, Cirrus said sharply, was never meant to be guarded by Earth's military. You humans overstepped your role. Ala stood across the table, arms crossed. We didn't overstep. She replied. We answered. Cirrus frowned. Without permission. Without process, Ala leaned forward. They were dying. Protocols exist for a reason. Ala didn't shout. She didn't threaten. She simply said, sometimes being human means doing the right thing first and asking questions later. The room went quiet. Even Cirrus had no reply. Commander Rock stood in the corner, watching her. He felt something warm in his chest. She wasn't just a soldier. She was something more after. The meeting, Ayla stepped outside and found herself alone in the corridor. The wind from a broken vent blew her hair across her face. She didn't even hear Rock walk up behind her. You were always good with words, he said softly. She turned, surprised. You were there, she asked. He nodded. I was listening. She looked down. I'm not good at this part, Rock. The quiet moments. The talking part. Neither am I. They both smiled, small and unsure. I thought maybe you were angry, she said. That I left and didn't stay in touch. I was, he admitted. But I was also proud. She looked up at him. You came back when it mattered most. He said, you didn't forget us. I could never forget you. They stood in silence for a moment. Then she took something out of her pocket. It was a small badge, her old field tag from when she was stationed at Farron's Drift. I kept. This, she said, all these years. He took it from her, turned it in his hand, and smiled. Still scratched, he said. Like me. Still strong, he added. Like you, she replied. That evening, the colony held a gathering, not a celebration there. Was still much to rebuild, but a quiet meal under the stars. Tables were set up. Food was shared. Stories were told. Ayla and Rock sat together near the edge. They didn't talk much, but this time, silence between them was soft. Safe. The distance was fading slowly. Carefully, Ayla looked up at the stars and said, You know humans always look up when things go wrong. We search the skies. It's maybe because we come from a death world. Maybe because we still believe someone will answer. Rock looked at her and said, And this time someone did. She nodded. And this time, she didn't feel like she was burning alone. She was human, and she had come back. Asterisk darkness fell over Farron's Drift once more. The stars above were calm, but the people below were uneasy. Inside the command dome, Commander Rock stood by the window. The colony was quiet, but not peaceful. Something heavy hung in the air, like a storm waiting, just beyond the hills. He felt it in his chest. Danger, and something else distance. Allah hadn't spoken to him since the council. Meeting. She was busy again running training drills, checking supplies, reviewing defense plans. Always surrounded by people, but always far. It reminded him of the days before she left, how she became harder to reach. Always working, always distant. Rock stared at the stars. He didn't want her to leave again, not without saying what he never said. Not again, but he still didn't know how. In her ship. Captain Ayla Thorne stood at the holomap. Her officers were around her, showing new movement on the edge of the system. The pirates are regrouping, said Kieran, her second in command. They're building something big. What kind of big? Allah asked. We're not. Sure, but one of our scouts picked up strange energy readings. Ancient, something banned by the council. Allah's jaw tightened. They're planning revenge. She knew it. This wasn't just another raid. The pirates had been humiliated, beaten by humans, by her. Now they wanted to strike back hard. She gave orders quickly. Alert the colony, double the guards, and send word to Rocky Needs to see this. But when she said his name, her voice softened. Her eyes flickered. She missed him more than she wanted to admit. Later that evening, Allah walked through the damaged gardens near the edge of the colony. No one else was there, just the soft sound of wind moving through cracked stone paths. Then she saw him. Commander. Rock sitting alone on a bench beneath a half-broken light. She paused. He hadn't seen her yet, and for a moment she thought about walking away. But then she remembered his voice when he helped her up after the crash. The way he said, "I thought I lost you again." She walked over slowly. "Mind if I sit?" she asked. He looked up, surprised, but not unhappy, of course. They sat in silence. The stars above twinkled gently. Then she spoke. "The pirates are building something dangerous." "I figured," he replied. "I wanted to warn you first." "Thank you." More silence. She glanced at him, then looked down. "You've been quiet again." He nodded slowly. "So have you." She sighed. "It's hard, being back here. Being close again, after being gone so long." Looked at her. "Why didn't you write?" "I didn't know what to say." "You didn't have to say much," he said. "Just something." Allah nodded. "I wanted to. Every time I looked at the stars, I thought of you, of this place. But I was scared. Scared of what? That you had moved on. That maybe I was the only one still holding on." Rock's voice was gentle. "You weren't." The wind passed between them like a breath, far above, in orbit around a nearby moon. The pirate fleet was hiding inside a dark chamber on the largest ship. A tall figure stood beside a glowing cage. Inside the cage was a creature, a twisted beast, older than most worlds. Its eyes burned like fire. Its body was thick with armored skin. "This was made for war," said the pirate leader. "It's banned by the old codes, but it will crush the humans." Another pirate shivered. "Can we even control it?" "We don't have to control it. We just point it at the colony and let it destroy everything." The plan was clear. The humans would suffer. The colony would burn, and Earth's so-called heroes would fall. Back on Farron's Drift, Ayla stood up from the bench. "I should get back," she said. "We have to prepare." Rock stood too, before. She turned to leave. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small stone, smooth, blue, shaped like a tear. He held it out. "I found this years ago," he said. "On the day you left, I was going to give it to you. Then I didn't know how." She took it gently. "It's beautiful. It's from this world. Like me." She closed her hand around it, then looked into his eyes. "I won't leave. Without saying goodbye again, I promise." And for the first time since her return, he believed her. The sky was still, but war was coming, and though they didn't know if they would win, they had each other and hope, and that would be enough. The pirate warbeast tore through the colony's defenses like a storm. Buildings crumbled, walls cracked. The ground shook with every heavy step it took. Commander Rock stood with a group of volunteers. They were not soldiers, just workers, farmers, engineers, people who never thought they'd fight, but now. They were the last line. Rock looked at them all. Their faces were scared, but determined. He took a deep breath. "We don't run," he said. "We don't hide. We stand." One young alien, small but fierce, raised a fist. "We fight with you, Commander." Rock smiled. Meanwhile, Captain Alathorn was coordinating the human troops from the command center. The pirates had brought everything. They had, but humans were not used to losing. Her voice was steady as she gave orders. "Hold the shield line. Don't let that monster through." Soldiers moved quickly, setting traps and firing plasma weapons. Despite the danger, Allah thought of Rock and his volunteers. They were brave, stronger than anyone expected. On the battlefield, Rock led his group. Into a narrow alleyway, the war beasts heavy. Steps grew louder. They prepared their weapons. Rock looked at the young alien beside him. "What's your name, Lyra?" "Lyra, stay close." She nodded. The war beast appeared, eyes glowing red. It smashed a wall with one swipe. Rock raised his rifle. Now. The volunteers fired. Their shots were weak against the beast's armor. But they didn't stop. Lyra threw a homemade grenade. It exploded near the beast's leg. The creature roared in pain and stumbled. Rock saw his chance. Fall back. Lead it to the trap. Back at the command center, La watched the battle unfold on the holoscreen. She clenched her fists. "Rock, be careful," she whispered. Her heart ached. She wanted to reach out, tell him she was there, but the words stuck in her throat. "Rocks." Group ran through the streets, leading the war beast to a narrow canyon. They had set explosives. Rock's plan was risky, but it was the only chance. "Get ready," he said. The beast followed, smashing everything in its path, just as it stepped into the canyon. The volunteers hit the detonator. A huge explosion rocked the ground. Rocks and dust flew everywhere. The war beast screamed, trapped between falling boulders. After the blast, silence. The volunteers gathered, exhausted but alive. Lyrt looked at Rock. "We did it," he nodded. But his eyes searched the crowd for one person. Ole. Suddenly Ole's voice came over the comlink. "Rock, report." Smiled. "We held the line. We stopped the war beast." "Good." Her voice softened. "I wish I could be there with you." He replied, "You are. Every step." Ayla smiled, tears in her eyes. That night, the colony was calm again. People celebrated quietly. Rock found Ayla near the repair station. They stood close, but didn't speak. Finally, Ayla broke the silence. "I'm sorry for being distant." He looked at her. "It's okay. I was scared to reach out." She took his hand. "We don't have to be scared anymore." Rock nodded. The distance between them was gone, replaced by hope. Asterisk. The war was over. The pirates had been pushed away. Farron's Drift was safe. But the colony was not the same. Buildings were broken, fields were damaged, and hearts were still healing, Commander. Rock stood on the highest hill overlooking the colony. The stars shone bright above. He held a small, smooth stone in his hand, the one Ayla had given him weeks ago. He thought about all that had happened, the battles, the danger, the distance between him, and Ayla. He closed his eyes and felt hope. Ayla walked beside him. Her armor clean now, her smile soft. They hadn't spoken much since the fight. Not because they didn't want to, because sometimes words were too hard. Instead, they just stood together, watching the stars. Rock finally spoke. "I was afraid you." "No." Ayla looked at him. "Afraid you moved on." He nodded. "I thought maybe I was the only one who still cared." She took his hand. "You weren't." Tears came to his eyes. "I missed you." She smiled. "I missed you too." The colony gathered for a ceremony. Leaders spoke of peace, of rebuilding, of friendship, Allah. And Rock stood side by side, their hands joined. A symbol. A young alien child ran up to them, holding a small flag. "Thank you," the child said softly. "Awa." Knelt down. "You're welcome," Rock smiled. "We fought for all of you." The Galactic Council passed a new law. It said Earth could help colonies in need without waiting for permission. Because when humanity answers a call for help, they come all the way. As the ceremony ended, Ayla looked at Rock. "Will you stay?" Smiled. "For now?" She laughed. "For now, maybe longer." They looked at each other, no words needed, that night under the stars. They sat together. No distance, no fear, just hope and a new beginning.